Be me, 23, and pretty sure I'm one of the good ones. Constantly on Twitter, calling out bad takes and cheering for social justice. My whole world is built on the idea that men have it easy and women are always fighting uphill battles. I spend a lot of time arguing with strangers online about feminism and equality. Think I know everything about how the world works, until a random comment on a thread sends me to a Wikipedia page with divorce court statistics. My brain short-circuits because the numbers are just plain wrong from my perspective. Sitting at my laptop around midnight on what I think was a Tuesday or Wednesday in March. Just finished another heated debate about gender wage gaps with some guy who claimed women choose lower-paying careers. Demolished his arguments with statistics and peer-reviewed studies, feeling pretty accomplished about educating another ignorant person. Scrolling through replies when I notice this random comment buried deep in thread. Some throwaway account linking to Wikipedia page about child custody outcomes. Click it thinking I'll find more ammunition for future arguments about systemic bias. Page loads and my confidence starts cracking like ice in spring. Numbers show that fathers get primary custody in only about 18% of cases. Mothers get it in around 82% of situations. Joint custody is rare, and when it happens, mothers still usually have primary residence. Must be propaganda from men's rights activists, right? These statistics have to be twisted, manipulated, taken out of context somehow. But it's Wikipedia, and the sources look legitimate. Government data, court records, academic studies, close laptop, try to forget what I read, but numbers keep bouncing around in my head for next several days. Finally decide I need to investigate this properly. If I'm going to keep fighting for equality, I need to understand all sides. Start visiting men's rights forums and fathers' rights websites, expecting to find cesspool of angry misogynists and woman haters. Plan is simple. Document their lies, expose their hatred, write devastating blog post, create throwaway Reddit account, and start lurking in various subreddits. First few posts I read are exactly what I expected to find. Angry rants about evil ex-wives, bitter divorced guys blaming women for everything. Screenshot particularly egregious comments for my upcoming expose. Feel vindicated, like I'm uncovering the toxic masculinity I always knew existed. But then something weird starts happening over a course of maybe 2 weeks. Mixed in with angry posts are stories that don't match my expectations. Guys talking about their kids with genuine tenderness and love. Describing legal battles that actually seem pretty unfair when you read details. No screaming about women being inherently evil or inferior. Just tired, defeated-sounding men who desperately want to see their children. Still convinced most of it has to be manipulation and selective storytelling, though. Decide to engage directly, rather than just lurking passively. Want to ask probing questions. Catch them in contradictions. Expose the underlying misogyny I'm sure must be there. Start commenting and messaging users who shared particularly sympathetic stories. My approach is intentionally confrontational and skeptical at first, asking things like, "Okay, but what did you really do to make your wife leave? Are you conveniently leaving out the part where you were abusive or controlling?" Expecting them to get defensive, reveal their true, hateful nature. Most guys just answer my hostile questions calmly and thoroughly. Provide more details about their situations without getting angry. Some even thank me for taking time to listen and ask questions. Start realizing that my confrontational approach isn't working as planned. These men aren't responding with the rage and defensiveness I expected. They're just explaining their circumstances patiently, like they're used to not being believed. Spend weeks diving deeper into various forums and message boards, reading hundreds of posts and personal stories. Patterns start emerging that make me uncomfortable. Stories about mothers who alienate children from their fathers. Court systems that seem biased toward maintaining status quo. fathers who lose everything, house, savings, access to kids, in divorce proceedings, lawyers who advise men to accept minimal visitation rather than fight. One particular user's story starts standing out among all the rest. Username is something generic like Mike_Dad_2016 or similar. His posts have different tone from most others on these forums. No anger, no bitterness toward his ex-wife, no generalizations about women. Just quiet, almost resigned desperation about missing his 7-year-old son. Describes ongoing court battles that have been dragging on for years. Mentions legal fees that completely bankrupted him. His writing style is measured, careful, almost literary. Talks about his boy who loves drawing dinosaurs and building with blocks. Mentions how kid asks why daddy can't come to school plays or birthday parties. Describes his ex-wife systematically scheduling activities during his visitation times. Canceling visits at last minute with excuses about son being sick or having homework. No name-calling, no wild accusations, just documentation of broken promises. Something about his posts resonates with me in a way I wasn't expecting. Maybe it's the obvious love for his child that comes through every word, or the complete absence of hatred toward his ex despite what she's apparently doing. Start following his posts regularly, checking forum daily for his updates. Find myself genuinely hoping things work out for him and his son. After reading his story for maybe 3 weeks, decide to reach out privately. Send him direct message introducing myself as journalism student. Lie about working on article about family court reform and father's rights. Explain that I want to understand his situation better. Get his perspective. He responds within few hours, seems genuinely grateful that someone wants to listen. Says most people assume he must have done something wrong to lose access to his son. We start exchanging messages regularly over next several weeks. He shares more intimate details about his marriage and divorce. Tells me his ex-wife seemed to change overnight after filing papers. Woman he thought he knew became cold, calculating, strategic. Started documenting every minor disagreement they'd ever had. Presented their entire relationship history as pattern of emotional abuse and control. Meanwhile, he was still hoping they could somehow work things out for their son's sake. Learned that his ex hired expensive lawyer known for aggressive custody tactics, someone with reputation for playing psychological games and manipulating court proceedings, while Mike could barely scrape together money for basic legal representation. His overworked public defender seemed disinterested in fighting hard. Advised him early on to accept minimal visitation rights and supervised visits. Said that fighting would just drag things out and make everything worse for everyone involved. As weeks turn into months, our conversations become daily routine. He shares updates about court dates, legal motions, attempts to see his son. I find myself genuinely invested in the outcome of his case. Start spending hours researching family law in his state, looking up legal precedents, successful custody challenges, appellate court decisions, sending him articles and case studies that might help his situation. Realize I'm dedicating more time to his case than to my usual activism. Barely posting on my social justice blogs anymore, ignoring discussions about wage gaps and glass ceilings. Friends start asking why I'm not engaging in their feminist debates. Don't know how to explain that I'm questioning fundamental assumptions about gender and power. Mike mentions that he finally has longer visitations scheduled. First time in months, he'll see his son for more than one supervised hour. Court-ordered overnight visit as step toward potentially expanded custody. Suggests we meet in person so I can help him organize legal documents. Hesitate at first since I've never met anyone from internet before. All my friends' warnings about online predators and dangerous men echo in my head. But his case has become deeply personal mission for me by this point. Agree to meet at coffee shop in downtown area on Saturday afternoon. Choose busy public place with good cell phone reception. Tell my roommate where I'm going and when to expect me back. Arrive early to scope out location and choose table with clear view of entrance. Recognize him immediately when he walks in. Looks exactly like profile picture. Appears tired and older than photos suggested, wearing wrinkled button-down shirt, carrying worn leather messenger bag that's seen better days. But he's not alone like I expected. Small boy walks beside him, quietly holding his hand. Kid looks exactly like his father. Same dark hair, same serious brown eyes. Mike introduces his son, explains this is their scheduled Saturday visit. Only time and place they're legally allowed to spend together, unsupervised. Son barely acknowledges introduction, seems accustomed to meeting strangers. Watching them interact over next few hours fundamentally changes my perspective. Mike patiently answers endless stream of 7-year-old questions, helps his son sound out difficult words in coloring book, praises every crayon scribble like it's masterpiece worthy of museum. Gently corrects his posture when he slouches, reminds him to say please and thank you. Ruffles his hair affectionately when boy shows off completed dinosaur drawing. Nothing about their relationship seems forced or performative. Just natural father-son bonding that I recognize from my own childhood. Kid obviously adores his dad, lights up when Mike laughs at his silly jokes, asks innocent questions about when they can live together again. Mike's face shows brief flash of pain before he gently explains why that can't happen. We spread legal documents across coffee shop table while son continues coloring. Mike methodically explains each court filing, every motion his ex-wife has submitted. Pattern emerges of systematic character assassination spanning several years. She documented every time he worked late to support family, twisted his dedication to providing financially into evidence of neglect and abandonment, portrayed his naturally quiet personality as emotional distance and unavailability. Notice how carefully Mike speaks about his ex-wife, even when describing her lies, refers to her respectfully as my son's mother or Alice, never uses derogatory language, never calls her crazy or manipulative, focuses on describing her actions rather than attacking her character or motives. Stark contrast to bitter, angry, divorced men I expected to encounter online. His son finishes elaborate drawing and proudly shows it to both of us. Picture shows stick figure family, mommy, daddy, and smaller child figure. All three holding hands in front of house, with big yellow sun overhead. Mike's eyes get slightly watery as he praises the artistic effort. Boy explains earnestly that he drew them all together like they used to be. Asks when they can live in the same house again and be normal family. Mike kneels down to his son's eye level, speaks gently but honestly. Explains that mommy and daddy can't live together anymore, but promises that he'll always be his daddy no matter what happens. Tells him how much he loves him, how proud he is of his drawings and good behavior. Boy seems to accept this explanation with resignation beyond his years. Court date is approaching within next week or two. Mike asks if I'd be willing to meet few more times to help organize his defense. Spend several evening sessions over coffee going through evidence, help him write character statements, gather testimony from former colleagues, contact his son's teachers who can speak about his involvement in boys' education. Find documentation that directly contradicts several of his ex-wife's major claims. Learn more disturbing details about his ex-wife's legal strategy. She's claimed he has serious anger management and impulse control issues. Alleges pattern of emotional abuse and psychological manipulation. Describes fear for her physical safety during their marriage. Yet there are no police reports, no hospital visits, no witnesses to any incidents, no restraining orders filed during their years together. Mike shows me text message exchanges between them from recent months, her tone in private communications completely different from courtroom victim persona. Messages are calculated, sometimes cruel, often threatening. She explicitly uses access to their son as leverage in financial negotiations, threatens to keep boy away from father if Mike doesn't comply with her demands. Screenshots reveal deliberate campaign to alienate child from his father. Other evidence emerges that contradicts her abuse allegations. Photos from family events showing them happy together. Social media posts where she bragged about having devoted husband. Testimony from mutual friends who never witnessed any concerning behavior. Her own journal entries that Mike's lawyer somehow obtained through discovery. Describe their marriage problems in terms of growing apart, not abuse or control. Day before court hearing arrives faster than expected. Meet Mike at same coffee shop for final preparation session. His son isn't there this time. Overnight visitation was suddenly canceled. Ex-wife claimed boy came down with stomach flu and needed to stay home. Pattern that happens frequently whenever important court dates approach. Another manipulation tactic that we can document but probably can't prove. Go over his testimony one final time. Practice staying calm under pressure. Mike has prepared for hostile cross-examination and leading questions. Gathered character witnesses who'll speak about his fitness as parent. Compiled timeline documenting every canceled visit and broken promise. Organized evidence chronologically to show pattern of alienation. Feel like we've covered every possible angle and built strongest case possible. Morning of court hearing arrives on what I think was Thursday in early May. Courthouse parking lot is packed. Take forever to find space. Building buzzing with lawyers in expensive suits and stressed-looking families. Mike arrives wearing his best outfit. Navy suit that's slightly too big. Carrying organized folder containing months of preparation. Meets with his court-appointed attorney to go over final strategy. His ex-wife Alice arrives with her legal team about 30 minutes later. Well-dressed woman in her late 20s who looks nothing like abuse victim. Confident stride, expensive clothes, professionally done hair and makeup. Flanked by high-powered lawyer in $1,000 suit. Sits at plaintiff's table like she owns the entire courtroom. Occasionally glances back at Mike with expression I can only describe as cold satisfaction. Proceedings begin with Mike's lawyer presenting their case methodically, systematically addresses each accusation his ex-wife has made, provides counter-evidence for every claim of abuse or neglect. Character witnesses testify about Mike's gentle nature and devotion to his son. Former neighbors describe him as patient father who was always playing catch in yard. Co-workers confirm he never showed signs of anger, stress, or instability at work. Feel genuinely optimistic as Mike's case unfolds over several hours. Evidence seems overwhelming in his favor. Testimony is compelling. Judge appears to be listening carefully, taking detailed notes. Asks several clarifying questions about timeline of events. Seems particularly interested in inconsistencies in Alice's abuse allegations. Nods approvingly when witnesses describe Mike's character and parenting abilities. Then opposing counsel begins their presentation, and everything changes. Completely different approach than I expected based on legal dramas. Barely addresses specific evidence that Mike's side provided. Instead, focuses on emotional appeals and sweeping generalizations. Talks extensively about protective maternal instincts and natural bonds. Emphasizes outdated tender years doctrine and importance of primary caretaker. Watch Judge's demeanor shift dramatically during this presentation. Less note-taking, more nodding along with traditional gender role arguments. Opposing lawyer skillfully redirects focus away from documented facts toward assumptions about fathers being naturally less equipped for primary custody. Suggests that Mike's demanding work schedule makes him unsuitable parent. Implies that disrupting current arrangement would traumatize the child. Mike's lawyer objects repeatedly to these generalized statements, points out complete lack of evidence supporting opposing counsel's claims. Judge overrules most objections with barely concealed impatience, allows opposing counsel extremely broad latitude in their emotional arguments. Atmosphere in courtroom shifts perceptibly against Mike's position, can feel momentum swinging toward maintaining status quo. Alice takes witness stand for her testimony midway through second day, completely transforms into convincing victim persona, speaks in soft, trembling voice, occasionally wiping away strategic tears, describes years of subtle emotional abuse that conveniently can't be documented, claims Mike's naturally calm demeanor was actually sign of controlling, manipulative nature, portrays his obvious love for his son as unhealthy possessiveness and obsession. Her lawyer leads her through carefully rehearsed testimony, emphasizes her fear during marriage, her concern for son's well-being, describes Mike's work demands as abandonment of family responsibilities, suggests that his desire for increased custody is really about avoiding support payments, paints herself as protective mother trying to shield child from unstable father. Cross-examination reveals multiple inconsistencies in Alice's story. Dates don't align with documented evidence. Details change between tellings. Mike's lawyer catches her in several outright contradictions, but Judge seems completely uninterested in these factual discrepancies, more concerned with her emotional presentation than logical consistency, allows her to elaborate extensively on feelings rather than verifiable facts. Mike testifies on his own behalf during afternoon session, speaks calmly and factually about his relationship with his son, describes specific activities they enjoy together, building models, reading books, explains how Alice has systematically reduced his parenting time over months, presents clear evidence of her deliberate alienation tactics, talks with obvious genuine love about wanting to be present, involve father. His testimony is heartfelt but measured, focused on child's best interests, never speaks harshly about Alice despite years of her sabotage, provides specific examples of canceled visits and broken promises, demonstrates intimate knowledge of son's interests, fears, and developmental needs, explains how current limited visitation arrangement hurts both father and child. Opposing counsel's cross-examination is absolutely brutal to witness, tries every possible tactic to provoke emotional reaction from Mike, suggests his calm demeanor during testimony proves he's emotionally unavailable, twists his dedication to work into evidence of neglect and wrong priorities, implies that his desire for custody is selfish attempt to hurt his ex-wife, questions his fitness as parent based on living in smaller apartment. Mike maintains remarkable composure throughout hours of hostile questioning, answers every accusation honestly and directly without losing temper, never takes bait when lawyer tries to make him criticize Alice, stays focused on his son's needs rather than personal grievances against his ex. But I can see Judge isn't impressed by his measured, rational responses, seems to interpret his self-control as lack of passion or emotional connection. Closing arguments arrive after 2 exhausting days of testimony. Mike's lawyer methodically summarizes evidence presented, points out numerous contradictions in opposing testimony, emphasizes Mike's demonstrated fitness as parent and his son's obvious need for father, argues passionately that decisions should be based on facts rather than assumptions, reminds Judge of constitutional rights of both fathers and children. Opposing counsel delivers powerfully emotional closing argument, talks about protecting vulnerable mother and innocent child, warns about dangers of disrupting existing custody arrangement, appeals to traditional values and assumptions about maternal primacy, suggests that any change to current situation would traumatize the boy, uses language about natural order and biological imperatives. Judge recesses court to consider decision, asks both parties to return next morning. Mike and I sit in courthouse hallway for a long time without talking. He's completely quiet, hands folded in lap, staring at floor tiles. Occasionally checks phone, hoping for text message from his son. Expresses quiet worry about how ongoing legal battle is affecting the boy. Wonders if he should have accepted original limited visitation arrangement. Spends sleepless night thinking about everything I've witnessed. All my assumptions about gender, power, and justice have been challenged. System I thought favored men clearly works against this particular father. Woman I expected to support as fellow victim appears to be manipulating everything. Facts and evidence seem less important than emotional appeals and stereotypes. Return to courthouse next morning for final verdict. Mike looks like he hasn't slept, dark circles under his eyes. Alice appears confident and relaxed, chatting casually with her expensive lawyer. Courtroom fills with other families waiting for their cases to be heard. Judge enters and begins reading decision in formal, dispassionate tone. Decision covers several pages of legal language and precedent citations. Talks extensively about best interests of child and maintaining stability. Mentions importance of primary attachment and continuity of care. Uses language that sounds objective and child-focused, but feels completely predetermined. Never directly addresses evidence of alienation or Alice's contradictory testimony. The judge announces the decision. Full custody goes to the mother. I look at Mike. He just sinks in his chair, no fight left in him. His wife smiles, a cold, calculating smile. It's not about what's right. It's about what's easy for the court. I feel completely hollow inside. I went in to help, thinking I could fix a broken system with logic and facts. I was just an idiot who fell for my own illusions. My blog is gone. I can't bring myself to post on it. I learned that the world isn't black and white, and my activism was just a bunch of words in the face of real pain.